All right, we're switching gears now for a bit.
Right.
I think you had more than enough business conversations in your life on camera, on webinars, not podcasts though.
I've never done a podcast.
Not podcast though. So we're going to be the first one talking to you more on your personal side, in front of the cameras.
Go ahead.
So I want to start first by you telling us a bit more about a very, very, very young Arjun.
Oh my Lord. Very young Arjun. Sports fanatic. I would say bordering on an indisciplined child, both at home and in school. Got along with most people. Was the organizer in chief, and really enjoyed the company of my parents.
Well, did you move places where you were younger, or?
I guess yes and no. I think so. Our childhood was split between spending considerable amount of time in the UK, New Delhi, which is where I grew up, and then traveling within India because members of my family come from different parts of India, and especially up in the mountains. I love the mountains.
Well, so, top one traveling destination in India from your point of view.
Oh God! All right,
give me one.
Well, it's actually my maternal home, which is in the Himalayas, which is a house which was built in 1855.
Oh, don't tell me. Is that road to La, or what's the name of it?
No, it's actually very close to a city called Shimla, which used to be the winter capital when India was under the British rule. And my mother's family are in the alcohol business. So one of the oldest breweries in the world is actually owned by the family. And it was built in 1855 by the British. When the British ruled India, and when the British left, then my grandfather bought that business over. So,
what alcohol are you producing?
So actually, this is correct. Well, they produce everything from beer to whiskey to rum. Actually, as a matter of fact, they have the one of the highest selling rums in the world. It's called Old Monk.
Wow.
Remind me next time if you're a rum drinker, I'll pass a bottle on.
It's on my bucket list to ride Indian motorcycle and travel north. So
India's a fascinating country, right? There's a saying in India that every so many thousand miles, how we dress, what we eat, and how we get married changes. Right.
That's amazing.
And you talk about a motorcycle ride. I have a very, very dear friend, and she has a TV show. And one of the things I always wanted to do with her, and we sort of flirted with the idea, was to say, because I'm a foodie, I actually have a food blog. I said, why don't we actually go and do this sort of trip across India for 30 days? Right.
Eat.
And just, eat, see the different culture, meet the different people. Because I think the diversity of India as a country is really not fully understood. Right. You've got to live it to actually experience it.
I'm sure it's not.
So favorite spot, I've been to Switzerland. I've been to the, some of the greatest sort of mountain ranges, but I still, that's home.
So if you want to do this show, but on motorbikes, you let me know, right?
I will definitely. Done.
What part of period of your early life had the biggest influence on who you are today?
Whoa, early life.
And we can call an early life up to 20-year-old, let's say, or teenage years. Let's not more than that.
Yeah, I think I would say. So I had a very severe accident when I was still in my last year of high school, right? And it was a touch and go in the sense I went into coma in intensive care and stuff, right? And I do think coming out of it, I think it made me a more mature individual.
Wake up.
Right. Yeah, it was not a wake up call. So, it wasn't like I was a kid who was all over the place. I was always a conscientious kid. I was a decent student. I was respectful. I was always close to family and friends. But I do think that sort of made me realize that there are people in the world who like you, and you don't only live for yourself, but there's more to life, and there's more to giving oneself to others. And actually, that's kind of how I am with my kids. So I'm a very hands-on father. I prefer spending time evenings with my daughters and my wife, walking down Marina than be at a restaurant. Not that I don't want to be at a restaurant. Enjoying experiences with that. So I think that had a profound effect. I think I've been very fortunate that I've been surrounded by some very interesting people my entire life. My godfather, who unfortunately is not alive anymore. My godmother, who unfortunately is not alive anymore. And they were all superstars in what they did. And I think subliminally that kind of, played a role. Obviously my parents did. Too. So
is there a person that had the biggest influence on you?
No, I don't think. I don't think I can pick a individual and say, he or she had the biggest influence. And equally, there were lots of people I came across and I said, I don't want to be like them at all either. Right. And
that's an influence of some kind.
Yeah, that is. And actually, it's sometimes as good an influence.
Exactly.
Right?
Yeah.
Where you look at a person and you go, something, no, I don't want to be like that. So no, I can't. I don't think I can point my finger and say that, I have this one sort of mentor who.
But these relationships meant a lot to you.
And they still do.
Yeah.
I still believe in relationships. I try and connect at a level which is deeper. I'm not a big fan of superficiality. I think I'm always available to friends and family.
We're going to ask them that.
Right. you should ask them, and maybe they'll just turn around and tell you that I'm none of the above. But there you go.
I'm just going to drop in a couple of random questions without a particular order now. If the average human lifespan was 40 years, how would you live your life differently?
I'd spend more time with my family, for sure, especially my parents, because I think I've been out of, or we've been in different parts of the world for a long time, and I get on with my parents. So I actually have a great relationship. It's not regret, but if I could do more, I would do more. I travel more. I travel a lot. I've actually been very fortunate. I've lived in lots and lots of countries, and I've traveled pretty much the world. But I just love going to different places, seeing different cultures, eating different foods. So yeah, I think I'm in the wrong profession. Maybe I should have been in tourism or something.
So you have a food blog. You're thinking about producing a show 30 days around India now on motorbikes.
Yeah.
You traveled a lot. So maybe it is. Maybe you need to switch gears.
Yeah, maybe I do. Maybe I will. Maybe who knows? Maybe I'll sleep lesser.
Yes,
right. I don't sleep much already. Maybe there's another hour or two.
Usually, what's your?
I'm not a good sleeper. I suffer from insomnia. I always have. I think I'm a hyper sort of person. But if I get 5 hours a night, I'd be lucky.
Wow.
Yeah.
How do you keep up with everything that you have to do?
It's kind of body gets used to. I think every 1 month or two, I think the body just shuts down, and then I have like a day where I can't move. But fortunately when I sleep well. So I think those 5 hours are good. I also believe sleep is incremental. So if I can catch cat naps here and there for 20, 30 minutes, then actually they help.
They help a lot, yeah.
They help a lot. So, so maybe squeeze another hour out of my sleep to do my 30-minute, my food blog a little bit more.
Yeah. What's the name of the food blog?
Well, it's on Instagram. It's called Global Foodies.
Global Foodies.
Yeah, and it's a very interesting story how it actually got. I think I've cataloged over 1,200, if not 1,400 restaurants there.
Wow.
And the way it started was, I remember very vividly, I was in Frankfurt. I was somewhere in Germany. I was stuck in an airport because it was snowing outside and flights got delayed. And a friend of mine actually called me landing in Rome saying, I'm in Rome with my girlfriend for 3 days. I need you to tell me 3 best restaurants where I can take her. and they just rolled off my tongue. And the phone shut down, and I kind of went and said, how often does that happen? Happened quite regularly. So I said, there's something out here I should. And I sat down, I opened my laptop, I had an Excel sheet, and I listed every single restaurant where I had an experience that I could remember. And that night, I think I got to a list of 800, right? Wow. And then I said, maybe there is something out there. But like everything else, which is a good idea, I did nothing about it. But I do that all the time. I've just come back from Italy. I took my daughters this time. And as a matter of fact, on LinkedIn, I took the liberty of putting in food posts, right? And actually...
How does that work?
Well, it worked very well. Actually, funnily enough, the response I got from a lot of my friends was like, it was refreshing because, in a way I was celebrating these restaurants, which are businesses, right? Yeah. So this, so why not?
Yeah, it's about just how you put it out there.
Yeah, exactly, right? So and these are gems. And if and there's nothing, just because I write more about fintech and financial services and insurtech and stuff doesn't stop me from having a life and then celebrating great restaurants and wineries. And if it helps them in somehow, then
absolutely,
even better, right? So why
not? There's this global movement, How I Fucked Up. Have you heard about it?
No.
Okay, it's awesome. So they're celebrating failures, all right?
Okay.
So in the world where everyone is celebrating successes all the time, they decided, let's celebrate failures and see what are the lessons that we learned out of our failures. Do you have a favorite failure of yours? A failure that set you up for later success in life?
I think I did in the early stage of my career, didn't do myself too much justice by always being the eager respondent to every question. And that resulted in significant failure in terms of not being able to get some of the opportunities that I would have otherwise got because sometimes I came across as immature or impetuous or whatever the word is. So that's something which I have learned how to sort of correct. I don't think I'm all the way on the other side of the spectrum. Not saying that I love love the sound of my voice, but more can be done.
How is that helping you now? When you compare?
I think in my current job it helps me greatly, right? So let's be honest, I greatly pride being a consultant, and the reason I greatly pride being a consultant is because think about how many jobs there are where someone invites you, tells you everything that is wrong about them, right? Then takes the patience to listen to what you have to tell them and pay you for it.
Not a lot.
Right? And this is what I tell every young consultant, right? I said, you've got to learn that the job you have in consulting is one of great responsibility, and we've got to take this seriously. This is not about solving a mathematical problem. Right? This is about appreciating that there are people out there who are being vulnerable. Fine, it's professional vulnerability, but it is vulnerability. In that scenario, to show patience and to be able to listen and hear and understand what they're saying, rather than jumping out and starting to rattle what you think they should do without listening, I think is hugely helpful. Right? Because I think generally the world feels that they're not heard enough, right? Which is why we need TikToks and Instagrams and Facebooks. Everybody wants to just be heard, right? So I think it does help my job hugely.
Well, hugely. I'm sure. Ray Dalio wrote the book Principles. If you read the book.
I've heard the book. I haven't read the book.
All right. So then no need for the introduction. Do you have any of your own life or work principles that you are sticking to?
Yeah, I think there is. So there's mutual respect. Very, very important. Does not. I'll give you the professional side first, and then I think on the personal side I'll come. So I think mutual respect is one. I hate hierarchies. Right. I seriously value people who have lived it and done it, irrespective of whether they've succeeded or failed. Very important, again, in our world of consulting. Nothing wrong with consultants. We're surrounded by some very, very smart people, but a very large percentage of them have never really ever lived in the real world and experienced it. And if I just go back to the fourth thing, which is God gave us 2 ears and 1 mouth. I'm not a religious guy. I'm just putting the word God out there. Let's kind of stick to it. I think on a personal side, I think be kind or just ignore. Right? There are so many people in this world that you're not going to like. There's 7 billion, so we don't have to be friendly with all of them. But be kind, right?
Or just ignore.
Or just ignore. Just walk away, and just it doesn't work. I think it's essential that we have certain core values that we stick with, right? I don't want to get into what those core values are because those could be different for you than me. But let's keep those core values to ourselves and let's not force them upon others. Because a lot of these core values are deeply embedded in either our culture and our religion. And so therefore, it creates unnecessary issue. And, I guess smile a few times. Don't take yourself too seriously all the time. I think it's simple as that. I try and... I think there's enough complication in our lives not to overcomplicate. Now, it's very smart people who can start meditating. I think it's great.
Do you?
I've struggled. But what's really helped with me is deep breathing. So that's very interesting. So I deep breathe about maybe half a dozen times to a dozen times a day.
Wow.
It's only a 30 seconds to a minute break. But because I'm not able to meditate, I use that and get enough oxygen into your system. I think it kind of calms you down.
I have my iWatch reminding me all the time to deep breathe, but I'm never really following the instructions.
Well, I don't have, so I have triggers. So I don't use an iWatch. I think that's awesome if you can, right? But I have triggers. So I do know
when is the time?
I just did deep breathing before coming into your office, right? Because something I've never done. There was an element of nervousness. Just before coming into your office downstairs, I just sat for a minute and just, took in, I think, 10 deep breaths.
It helps. And whenever I tried, it really helps to kind of,
it does.
Calms down, stabilize.
It does. And I think if you can get any exercise, then it's good.
Yeah.
I recommend paddle tennis these days.
Hey, I heard about it's big in Dubai these days.
Well, it's a lot of fun, man.
Yeah.
And for people who are getting fatter and slower like me, right? Thank God for the wall behind. so yeah, no, it's a great sport. Yeah.
Awesome. What was the hardest thing that you had to do in your life?
It's the hardest thing I had to do in my life. Ooh.
Paddle tennis.
Wow. Yeah. Well, I don't know. It's very hard to answer the question. There's, I think I'm being kind. What's the hardest thing? Okay. Leaving London to start a business as a professional in India, and then having to leave that to come back here to restart and doing it all within 18 months was hugely hard, personally, professionally, emotionally, right? And it had to be done because of both interpersonal and professional reasons.
Right? At the time you had a family?
I had just gotten married. And to make matters even more complex.
What was the biggest takeaway?
Don't take too much on at the same time. Right? I think, which I think Obama should have learned when he was the president, at least in his first term. No, it was, I think there was too much going on. So I think being more organized, but I think that's the problem with youth, right? When you're young, I'm going back 12 years, right?
No, absolutely.
You can conquer the world, right?
Absolutely.
We're all Alexander the Great.
Yeah.
So we're not all Alexander.
We are,
the
right?
Great. Well, not me, Vuk. I think you can. I'm happy not being Alexander the Great or Alexander at all. So no, that was the hardest period. I think it was not a hard incident. I've lost some family members, especially losing my godfather. He was a young man. He was 52 years old and he died suddenly. That was a blow. But I think I was at an age, and where one kind of reconciles and gets on with it. But I think this period I just talked about, it was genuinely hard. It was hard. Your bones hurt.
Yeah, but I guess these are the periods that are giving you the most important lessons in life.
Totally. And I think, the way to look at it, look around, and there are people who have so many bigger challenges. And then you just you take a step back and you just be thankful.
All right. My last question, and we're wrapping up. As the change officer, if there would be one thing that you could change in the Middle East, what would that be?
Oh God. That's a hard one. So I'm not gonna take a sort of a political view on this at all, and I think I'll take an industry view on this, and I'll come back to the boring world of fintech. I think the one thing which could really catalyze the whole fintech scene in this part of the world, and I see myself as a change officer, is if we can get the large corporates, right, especially the family businesses, to really get involved, right, in more than one way, right, to catalyze this whole startup fintech ecosystem, right? We're starting to see evidence. I think, my previous employers at Al Futtaim started to do some great stuff, and I think they're continuing to. But I think if that can get all catalyzed together, I think we will see exponential growth. And I mean the Saudi market, and I mean the UAE, and I mean the other GCC countries, right? I don't think this can be left just to the VCs and the government and the enablement and the enablers like the accelerators. I do think that the large family houses, conglomerates which are here, can take the lead and the charge to really catalyze the change, because that's how economy is actually based, right? A number of these families have a significant influence in the way consumers actually transact, trade, how B2B businesses grow and are impacted, and more importantly, the influence they have on the overall GDP of the economy. So I think that could be, one area where I think things could change. I'm sorry it wasn't as
no, this was what I was hoping for. Yeah,
great.
There are no rules. We're going to make sure to echo the message, and then let's see what happens.
Yeah.
Arjun, thanks for coming, man.
Well, appreciate it. Thank you.
It was
I survived.
No, you did great. It was a really great conversation.
You can send me the ratings later.
We'll see about the reviews.
Yeah, and avoid TikTok, but I'll leave it to you. No, thank you. Thank you for having me.
I hope you had a good time as well.
No, I enjoyed it. I actually enjoyed it. You made me think harder than I thought I would have to. Great.
Guys, I hope you enjoyed as well. We had two very interesting parts, business and personal aside. On the business note, I really hope that we kind of open up your ideas, and that you are going to think differently maybe, and pursue some of the new ideas that hopefully we inspired you to think of. If you like what we're doing here with the Change Officer podcast, please like and subscribe. Leave any comments below if you have questions for Arjun or me. We're going to make sure to address them all. And stay tuned. There is another great episode coming out next month. Thanks, everyone.